When Officer Peterson falsely arrested Marcus Johnson, he thought it was just another easy conviction, until his target stepped into the courtroom and turned the tables with legal brilliance that exposed not just one cop's prejudice, but an entire system's failure. Marcus Johnson, a 35-year-old black man dressed in a simple but well-pressed suit, walks confidently through the courthouse security checkpoint. He nods respectfully to the guards and court staff as he makes his way toward courtroom C. His demeanor is composed and professional despite the gravity of the situation. Behind him, Officer James Peterson, a 48-year-old white police veteran with an imposing presence, watches with visible disdain, whispering something to his partner who chuckles in response. As Marcus approaches the courtroom entrance, the bailiff steps forward to intercept him. "Sir, defendants need to check in with their attorneys before entering," he says with practiced authority. Marcus responds with a polite smile. "I understand, but I'm representing myself today." Case number 247 CR 319. The bailiff looks surprised, checking his clipboard with skepticism etched across his face. "Pro se, ha. Good luck with that," he remarks dismissively before stepping aside. "You can go in." As Marcus enters the courtroom, Officer Peterson mutters to his partner, "Another one who thinks he knows the law better than we do. This'll be quick." His partner nods in agreement, both clearly underestimating the man they've accused of a crime he didn't commit. Neither of them realizes they've made a critical error in judgment that is about to be exposed. Inside courtroom C, Judge Harriet Waters, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a reputation for being stern but fair, presides over the day's proceedings. The modestly appointed courtroom buzzes with the usual activity: attorneys shuffling papers, clerks organizing files, and observers waiting for the day's cases to begin. District Attorney Richard Collins, a seasoned prosecutor known for his high conviction rate, sits confidently at the prosecution table, barely glancing up as Marcus enters. Case number 247 CR 319, The People versus Marcus Johnson, announces the court clerk as Marcus takes his position at the defense table. Judge Waters looks down at her docket and then at Marcus with slight surprise. "Mr. Johnson, I understand you're representing yourself today," she asks. Marcus stands, his posture perfect, and addresses the court. "Yes, Your Honor. I filed all the necessary paperwork and am prepared to proceed." The judge nods, though a flicker of concern crosses her face. "Very well. Are both sides ready for the preliminary hearing?" Both Marcus and the DA confirm they are. District Attorney Collins rises with the practiced ease of someone who has done this thousands of times. "Your Honor, the state has charged Mr. Johnson with obstruction of justice and resisting arrest following an incident on March 10th. Officer Peterson will testify that the defendant refused lawful orders during a routine stop and subsequently attempted to flee the scene. We have the officer's body camera footage and written report as evidence." He speaks with complete confidence, occasionally glancing toward Marcus with barely concealed condescension. Officer Peterson takes the stand, swearing to tell the truth with his hand on the Bible. He recounts his version of events with rehearsed precision. "I observed the defendant acting suspiciously near the corner of Maple and Fifth. When I approached to ask basic questions, he became agitated and refused to comply with standard procedure. When asked for identification, he became argumentative, questioning my authority. As I attempted to detain him for further questioning, he resisted, forcing me to use appropriate measures to gain compliance." Peterson's testimony continues, painting a picture of Marcus as uncooperative and potentially dangerous. "Based on my 15 years of experience, his behavior indicated potential criminal activity or intent. The defendant continued to make statements about knowing his rights in what I perceived as an attempt to obstruct my investigation. Throughout this testimony, Marcus takes careful notes, his expression revealing nothing as the officer repeatedly characterizes his normal, lawful behavior as suspicious. When it's Marcus's turn for cross-examination, the courtroom atmosphere shifts subtly. He stands, buttoning his jacket with deliberate calmness. "Officer Peterson, thank you for your service." He begins with genuine respect in his voice. "I'd like to clarify a few points about your testimony, if I may." Peterson nods, clearly expecting amateur questions he can easily dismiss. Judge Waters leans forward slightly, curious about how this self-represented defendant will proceed. "Officer, you stated that you observed me acting suspiciously. Could you please articulate for the court exactly what behaviors you observed that met the legal threshold for reasonable suspicion under Terry v. Ohio?" Marcus asks, referencing the landmark Supreme Court case with casual familiarity. Peterson blinks, caught off guard by the precise legal reference. "Well, you were looking around nervously and seemed out of place in that neighborhood," he responds, his confidence wavering slightly. Marcus continues calmly. "And regarding the body camera footage that the prosecution referenced, I've reviewed it in detail. Would you agree that the timestamp shows you activated your camera only after our interaction had already begun, contrary to your department's policy 7.3, which requires activation at the initiation of all civilian encounters?" The officer shifts uncomfortably in his seat, glancing toward the district attorney, who sits up straighter, suddenly much more attentive. "I may have had a momentary delay in activation," Peterson admits reluctantly. "Let's address your claim that I refused to identify myself." Marcus continues, his questioning methodical and precise. "I believe the partial footage does show me presenting my bar card. Does it not?" The courtroom falls completely silent. District Attorney Collins' expression shifts from confusion to dawning realization. "Bar card?" Judge Waters asks. Marcus turns respectfully toward the bench. "Yes, Your Honor. I'm a licensed attorney specializing in constitutional law, currently on sabbatical from Washington and Mitchell, where I'm a partner in their civil rights division. I was actually returning from giving a guest lecture on Fourth Amendment protections at City College when Officer Peterson detained me." Marcus Johnson, representing himself in court, begins to dismantle the prosecution's case through a masterful display of legal expertise and strategic questioning. This section is particularly significant as it showcases not only Marcus's deep understanding of constitutional law, but also his ability to expose systemic issues within law enforcement practices while maintaining a respectful and professional demeanor throughout the proceedings. The courtroom atmosphere undergoes a noticeable shift as Marcus rises to begin his cross-examination of Officer Peterson. His deliberate movements, including buttoning his jacket with calm precision, signal a transition from defense to offense. The opening statement, "Officer Peterson, thank you for your service," demonstrates Marcus's commitment to maintaining professionalism even while challenging the officer's testimony. This approach is crucial, as it prevents the proceedings from devolving into personal attacks and keeps the focus on the legal merits of the case. Judge Waters' subtle forward lean indicates her growing interest in how this self-represented defendant will navigate the complex legal terrain ahead. Marcus immediately zeroes in on the fundamental issue of reasonable suspicion, referencing the landmark Supreme Court case Terry v. Ohio. This strategic move is particularly effective because it forces Officer Peterson to articulate specific behaviors that legally justify the initial stop. When Peterson responds vaguely about nervous behavior and appearing out of place, Marcus's question exposes a critical flaw in the officer's reasoning. The requirement for reasonable suspicion is not based on subjective impressions or racial profiling, but on objective, articulable facts that suggest criminal activity. By demanding specificity, Marcus highlights how easily vague observations can be used to justify stops that may actually be based on implicit bias or racial profiling. The examination then shifts to the technical aspects of evidence collection, specifically the body camera footage. Marcus's detailed knowledge of departmental policies, demonstrated by his reference to Policy 7.3 requiring immediate activation of body cameras during civilian encounters, reveals another significant issue. When Officer Peterson admits to a momentary delay in activating his camera, it raises questions about both the integrity of the evidence and the officer's adherence to established protocols. This line of questioning is particularly damaging because it suggests a pattern of behavior where officers might selectively document encounters to support their version of events. The district attorney's sudden attentiveness underscores the gravity of this revelation, as it threatens to undermine the entire prosecution's case. Perhaps the most dramatic moment occurs when Marcus addresses the claim that he refused to identify himself. His calm request to confirm whether the partial footage shows him presenting his bar card creates a palpable tension in the courtroom. The stunned silence that follows speaks volumes about the significance of this revelation. As a licensed attorney specializing in constitutional law and a partner at a prestigious firm, Marcus's status completely reframes the encounter with Officer Peterson. This detail transforms what the prosecution portrayed as an obstructionist citizen into a legal professional exercising his rights during a questionable detention. The irony becomes apparent. The person accused of resisting authority was actually an expert in the very laws the officer was purportedly enforcing. Marcus's presentation of Exhibit D, containing the complete audio recording from his phone, provides an unedited account of the entire interaction. The contrast between this comprehensive record and the partial body camera footage is stark. The recording captures Marcus calmly identifying himself as an attorney and asking for the legal basis of his detention, while documenting the officer's increasing agitation when questioned. This evidence serves multiple purposes. It disproves the officer's characterization of Marcus as argumentative, demonstrates proper conduct during the encounter, and highlights how quickly routine interactions can escalate due to mutual misunderstanding or bias. Judge Waters' increasingly troubled expression as she listens to the recording reflects the growing realization that the prosecution's case rests on shaky ground. When Marcus moves for dismissal under Rule 12.3, citing insufficient evidence in violation of his Fourth Amendment rights, he ties together all the threads of his defense. The reference to Wong Sun v. United States emphasizes how the initial illegal stop tainted all subsequent actions, making any evidence gathered inadmissible as fruit of the poisonous tree. This legal argument is particularly powerful because it directly addresses the foundation of the prosecution's case, effectively cutting off their ability to proceed with charges based on evidence obtained during the unlawful detention. District Attorney Collins's attempt to request a recess after hearing the complete recording is met with Judge Waters' pointed reminder about discovery obligations. This exchange is significant because it highlights a failure in the prosecution's preparation and raises questions about whether they deliberately avoided reviewing exculpatory evidence. The judge's decision to allow Marcus to continue demonstrates her recognition of the strength of his arguments and the importance of addressing these issues immediately rather than delaying the inevitable conclusion. As Marcus continues his examination of Officer Peterson, he maintains a respectful tone while driving home crucial points about constitutional protections. His acknowledgement of the challenges faced by law enforcement officers helps to frame the discussion as one of principle rather than personal conflict. When Marcus states that the Constitution protects all citizens equally, regardless of appearance or location, he forces Officer Peterson to confront the core values of his profession. The officer's reluctant agreement marks a turning point in his understanding of the situation, though it comes too late to salvage the prosecution's case. This sequence of events in Part 4 represents more than just a successful defense strategy. It illustrates how systemic issues in policing and prosecution can be exposed through careful legal analysis and procedural adherence. Marcus's methodical approach, combining respect for legal formalities with incisive questioning, demonstrates how constitutional protections must be actively defended against erosion through improper practices. His ability to remain composed while dismantling the prosecution's case serves as a powerful example of how legal expertise can be used to challenge injustice while maintaining professional integrity. Furthermore, this section sets the stage for broader implications beyond the immediate case. By exposing the weaknesses in both the officer's conduct and the prosecution's handling of evidence, Marcus creates an opportunity for meaningful dialogue about police practices and prosecutorial responsibility. The courtroom scene becomes a microcosm of larger societal discussions about racial profiling, evidentiary standards, and the equal application of constitutional rights. Through his actions, Marcus not only defends himself, but also highlights the need for reforms in how law enforcement interacts with citizens and how prosecutors evaluate cases before bringing them to trial. The detailed examination of policy violations, combined with the presentation of comprehensive evidence and precise legal arguments, creates an irrefutable case for dismissal. However, more importantly, it establishes a framework for understanding how similar situations could be prevented in the future. Marcus's respectful yet unwavering approach to questioning authority serves as a model for how legal professionals can advocate for change while operating within the system they seek to improve. This section thus functions as both a climax in the narrative arc of the courtroom drama and a foundation for the subsequent discussions about reform and reconciliation that will follow in the story's resolution. The culmination of Marcus Johnson's legal battle unfolds with profound implications that extend far beyond the courtroom walls. Judge Harriet Waters, after meticulously reviewing the evidence presented throughout the proceedings, delivers a decisive verdict that not only vindicates Marcus, but also exposes significant flaws in law enforcement practices and prosecutorial conduct. Her ruling reflects both her judicial acumen and her commitment to upholding constitutional principles, regardless of external pressures or preconceived biases. The judge's pronouncement begins with a clear articulation of the case's fundamental issues. She declares that the initial detention of Marcus lacked reasonable suspicion, a cornerstone requirement for any lawful stop under the Fourth Amendment. This determination invalidates the entire sequence of events that followed, as all subsequent actions by Officer Peterson were predicated on this unlawful detention. By invoking the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine established in Wong Sun, the United States, Judge Waters emphasizes that evidence obtained through unconstitutional means cannot be used to justify criminal charges. The dismissal of all charges with prejudice underscores the severity of the violation and prevents the possibility of refiling the same accusations against Marcus. However, Judge Waters goes beyond merely dismissing the case. Recognizing the broader implications of the officer's conduct, she takes the unprecedented step of referring the matter to the Police Standards Commission for further review. This decision highlights several concerning aspects of Officer Peterson's behavior, particularly his delayed activation of the body camera and his apparent mischaracterization of events in his official report. The referral serves multiple purposes. It initiates an official investigation into potential misconduct, signals zero tolerance for procedural violations, and acknowledges the need for accountability within law enforcement agencies. Moreover, it demonstrates how judicial oversight can play a crucial role in maintaining the integrity of police practices and ensuring public trust in law enforcement institutions. The immediate aftermath of the ruling reveals powerful moments of personal transformation and reconciliation. As people begin filing out of the courtroom, Officer Peterson approaches Marcus with visible discomfort, struggling to find appropriate words. His attempt at communication represents a significant shift from his earlier dismissive attitude toward Marcus. Instead of confrontation, there is now an opening for dialogue and understanding. Marcus responds with characteristic grace and wisdom, acknowledging the challenges faced by law enforcement, while emphasizing the importance of seeing individuals beyond stereotypes or statistics. His offer to speak at the precinct about community relations exemplifies his commitment to constructive solutions rather than punitive measures, transforming what could have been a purely adversarial relationship into an opportunity for mutual growth and learning. The district attorney's approach afterward adds another layer of complexity to the narrative. Richard Collins, who initially pursued the case with confidence, now extends an olive branch in the form of a professional opportunity. His invitation to discuss expanding the Civil Rights Oversight Division within the prosecutor's office signifies a recognition of systemic issues that require attention and reform. Marcus's acceptance of this overture demonstrates his belief in effecting change from both inside and outside traditional power structures. This interaction between former adversaries symbolizes a bridge being built between different sectors of the justice system, each committed to improving its functioning and addressing historical inequities. As Marcus steps into the courthouse hallway, he faces a throng of reporters eager to capture his reaction to the day's events. His response transcends personal victory, focusing instead on the broader societal implications of his experience. He highlights how many individuals without legal training face similar injustices daily, but lack the resources or knowledge to defend themselves effectively. This observation underscores a critical disparity in access to justice and calls for comprehensive reforms in both policing practices and public defense systems. Marcus's statement about justice not depending on one's ability to cite case law from memory strikes at the heart of equitable legal representation, advocating for a system where constitutional protections are accessible and meaningful to all citizens, regardless of their legal expertise. The epilogue, 6 months later, provides a hopeful conclusion to this transformative journey. A local newspaper article documents the remarkable partnership between Marcus Johnson and Officer Peterson, who now stand together as advocates for justice reform. Their collaboration exemplifies how personal accountability and willingness to learn can lead to meaningful change. Peterson's journey from facing disciplinary action to becoming an active participant in bias training and community relations initiatives demonstrates genuine growth and commitment to improvement. Together, they conduct workshops that educate both officers and citizens about constitutional rights during police encounters, fostering better understanding and cooperation between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Judge Waters' reflection in the article captures the essence of this transformation. She notes that what makes this story truly remarkable is not just the exposure of systemic problems, but the choice made by both men to pursue reconciliation rather than resentment. This decision to work together toward preventing similar injustices speaks volumes about the power of forgiveness and the potential for positive change when individuals commit to doing better. Marcus's concluding statement encapsulates the fundamental purpose of the law: to protect everyone equally. When the system fails in this duty, society as a whole suffers. But when mistakes are acknowledged and efforts are made toward improvement, real justice begins to take root. 6 months later, the local newspaper runs a feature story. Former adversaries team up for justice reform. The article shows a photograph of Marcus Johnson and Officer Peterson standing together at a community forum. The accompanying story details how Peterson, after facing disciplinary action and nearly losing his job, underwent extensive bias training and eventually joined Johnson's newly established Police Community Relations Initiative. Together, they now conduct workshops for both officers and citizens on constitutional rights during police encounters. The judge who presided over the case, Harriet Waters, is quoted in the article. What makes this story remarkable isn't just Mr. Johnson's legal expertise exposing a systemic problem. It's that both men chose reconciliation over resentment. Officer Peterson could have become defensive. Mr. Johnson could have pursued vengeance. Instead, they're working to prevent similar injustices from happening to others. The article concludes with Johnson's simple but powerful statement: "The law is meant to protect everyone equally. When it doesn't, we all lose. But when we acknowledge mistakes and commit to doing better, that's when real justice begins."